at the end of the book, I label this is a book of hope and a book of despair. Lost and found.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Despair in that there is still a lot more work to be done, and hope that you have brought so much to life with your detective work. Hello, detective. Yes, hope that that you've brought so much, and it's inspiration for academics. I mean, people are looking for things to write about, the masters or doctoral thesis and so, and there is so much if they know where to look, right?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, that was one of the main motivations for this book. Was I literally cannot write up everything that I'd like to write up in my own lifetime. These writers deserve really special attention, but I also know that students and all of us are really time poor, and doing the very, very laborious detective work is hard, because if you turn up to your supervisor and say, I've just spent 6 months looking for something, but I didn't really find much, it doesn't really go down very well. So I think, my aim of producing all the bibliographies in the book is so, that doctoral student will know where to begin. Like that's not going to be everything that writer's written, but it's a really good start. And I think that's why it can be really daunting to try and look for somebody who's lost, because it can initially be really, really hard to find those clues. And it probably is difficult for students to be quite so brave, or maybe brazen as I have been, to put adverts in newspapers and on television and just kind of call people up and pop round their houses, or do everything that I needed to do to find out who they are, sometimes moving in with relatives who've been so supportive. But it's a very unusual kind of research. So I hope that I've created a few kind of footholds, and other people can think, oh yeah, that's possible, it's not impossible. And we've got so much to learn from what has already been written that, it would be a shame not to capture it while we can.
Davidin once said that whenever students come to him, he always direct them, go down to Guyana. Right? He direct them to Guyana. He said Guyana, the West Indies is open to all manner of research. Lots of hidden treasures. Right? And
yeah.
He points you
well, of course, he was my PhD supervisor, so there we go.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah.
So yeah, I was following that trail, and I found Edwina, who is, whose riches are kind of really, I think, sort of, immense, because she wrote politically, she wrote environmentally, she wrote imaginatively, and often what's so striking is she's doing all of that at once. So a short story will also be like a complete kind of ecological education, and her piece that she writes on agriculture will be so poetic that you see the landscape completely differently. So I think having all of those different aspects of her relationship to the world, that's what they weren't disconnected for her, and it's so clear from her writing that she brings that really sort of earth-centered sensibility into the world.
Yeah. Let's move quickly from one end of Guyana to the end. Let's see if you can squeeze in someone else, like Beryl Gilroy. Beryl is the other end of Guyana, right?
Yeah,
Guyanese.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was actually lucky enough to know Beryl when I was a student and an early career academic, and she was such an inspiring figure and such a generous person. I mean, everyone I knew who was working on the women's literature in the Caribbean, she had time for. She was incredible, and of course she had migrated to the UK at a time where those clashing values that I've just spoken about, being accepted as a woman, were piled on with this kind of, revolting racism that she had to encounter as a really sort of esteemed professional coming in and being treated, very, very differently to that. And so her writing life, again, a bit like Jean Rhys, she had written a lot of stuff that she'd put away that hadn't been published.
Yes.
And then she went back to it later in her life. And I think in common with a lot of the women writers, she gives us the most beautiful insights into women's relationships with each other, and into the lives of the young and the old, which, very, 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 very tender portrayal. And
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
and obviously, again, she was an educator, she was a psychotherapist. I mean, she had the most dazzling brain and the biggest heart, and I think her writing is really sharp in both of those regards, a kind of emotional intensity of it, and also looking at all of the structural issues within the social world that create those situations.
Deep sort of writing, Fanji Panji House, I think it was. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Really?
Very, very much about memory and what it is to look back, and really very powerful.
Yeah. Good. And there's I think we can bring a male writing into the mix. A guy who I've discovered quite a long time, and that's Eric Waldron. Quite early in my adventure in Guyanese literature, I discovered him, and remarkable in the things that he have done. Tropic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very interesting figure.
Very much. Yeah. To deal.
And I think sort of a bit lost to Caribbean writing, because he was kind of claimed as a Harlem Renaissance writer.
Yes. All right. He rubbed shoulder with them quite a lot. That apparently he's taken on that characteristic of the Harlem writers. So yes, there's another reason why you can be lost.
Yes, very, very many ways to be lost.
Yeah, you can be assimilated in a movement without knowing.
Yeah,
that you're lost.
In many ways, he's lost because he belongs to so many places.
Oh yeah.
So he's writing kind of very early modernist writing, so he belongs to that tradition. He's writing within Harlem Renaissance, and he comes to London. He's writing within the kind of anti-colonial magazine culture with C.L.R. James. He's doing all kinds of interesting stuff. And I think that's that excessive belonging that almost makes him hard to spot.
Yeah. A pity. He had to go to London to die in the streets.
Yeah.
What a pity. What a loss. That is a loss.
Yeah.
Now, lost and found. I have it here, all is not lost. Why?
Yeah, it's true. There's so much to be found when I think that we assume that if papers are not in the archive, or I have to say a big shout out to archivists and librarians who are obviously so important to literary scholarship and recovery scholarship. But I think we can often think if the papers are there, then they're gone. But my experience is so many families have held on to safekeeping, and that there's actually a lot of unpublished work. There's a lot of work that sits in private archives that will really bring to life very many traditions.
Yeah.
So if people have papers at home, or if they have an inkling the papers might be important, don't throw them out. Bring them to the detective agency.
Yeah. There's a writer, Basil Balgobin, right, who had about 12 stories published in the Guyana Annual, the Chronicle Christmas Annual. right? And recently I made contact with his relatives. And they said, yes, his papers are there, his papers are there. But when they went for it, it's gone. But I like what you said. Yeah, they're all gone. You know, you move from one place to the other. And
it's true.
yeah. But
That's a really big thing to consider, actually.
Yeah,
you know, it takes a lot of effort for things to be kept.
You know, one time I started collecting his story with the intent that one day I will get his papers and I can put a collection together. But that is lost. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe
Yeah.
they're somewhere hiding still.
Huh. No, it was in the roof, and when they rebuilt the house, you know, it all went somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
But, yeah.
Well, you have his writings. That's
Yeah, I have his
somewhere to start
writings,
with.
1940, 1948, 49, thereabout he was writing. And some subjects he dealt with, you know, varied subjects. But there are a few others. When I was doing biography for the newspaper, my columns, I used to go out into the villages, meet people. Right? What they say may not be true, it may not be facts, but then I'm able to sort things out and get something to write about.
Yeah. Such important work.
Yeah. What you can't find in the archive, it's out there. Somebody knows.
I agree. I totally agree. That you know, the oral archives are so important, and that's why it's really timely to be doing this work now. Because sadly, you know, some of the writers, if I had been a bit quicker, I would have had a chance to meet them, and I regret that it took me so long to get round to it. So I think anyone who's interested, don't delay.
Please, go.
And if you have writers in the family, interview them.
Yeah.
You know, record it. You know, keep those papers, because all of this it really is so valuable. You know, this is the past, and if we tell a small version of it, we get it wrong.
That's so true. That is so true. You said just now, many times we look to the newspaper or the archives, blah, 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 for printed material. And there's a little quote here. You quoted Sylvia Winter saying something to this effect: we continue to mistake the map for the ground. You know? Yeah. That's why I like ground work. I like meeting people. You get so much more out of them.
It's been the biggest joys of this book have been meeting with all of the relatives of the writers or the friends of the writers, hearing their stories and watching that kind of flush of recognition as they realize that their mother or their aunt was really, really significant, like really matters. It's like really important that we're able to bring them back into view. Because often, as I said, there was a lot of humility in a lot of these writers.
Yeah.
You know, they were just doing this as part of their life. They weren't making a big fuss. They weren't making money from it. So I think that, you know, to know how important it is now does really matter, and to kind of hear all of the little memories. Or when I went up to Letham, I was able to see Edwina's typewriter, and it literally made me shiver to think of her sitting there, you know, looking for the same view and typing out the stories. It was really magical.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when we research something, it really literally touches us.
Indeed. Some of the things we find, and it feels good. It feels good. I see you have something to say about that. You're not downplaying the work and getting the research done, and you're not downplaying the joy of making that connection, of discovery.
Yeah.
The joy of discovery. Yeah, it's so wonderful. Yep.
And give yourself time, I think. I mean, like you've experienced that. Like sometimes you don't find anything, sometimes you find something magical. You just have to have to be persistent, don't you?
Yeah. I remember A.J. Seymour pointing me towards the little magazines. And do you know the treasures in those little magazines? Of course, you've gone through some of the little magazines.
Yes.
They are amazing. Apart from the things on writers and artists, the advertisements, some of those things.
Oh, absolutely. It opens up that world, doesn't it, when you read all of
it
that
tells
and
you,
see it.
like anthropologists,
Yeah.
what was going on then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Absolutely. I really agree.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the efforts that they made to really produce literary culture, to have anthologies, to have festivals, to talk about kind of what was happening in the Caribbean world through the writer's eye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really important.
Well, thank you very much, Alison. You have done great.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it's an inspiration. And you can point people out also who are doing the
Yes.
go down to Guyana.
I can do that, and I should say, as you said, this is partly edited. There's the work of a lot of other great scholars in here as well, and it really does take a village to do this kind of work. You know?
Yes.
I have so many debts, including to yourself,